Right. All right. All right. All right. All right. Top of the morning, top of the evening, top of the night, whatever time zone you are on. We are live. As many of you already know, the three that murdered Ahmaud Arbery has been found guilty on all accounts. Um, let's get to it. It was released 35 minutes ago, over 35 minutes ago. Okay. So I'm going to go a moment of silence for those who have lost their lives. Let's remember this. We can look up, we can get up, we can get up, we can go up. That being said, I know many others have announced this. The news media announced this. I knew the verdict would come in today, and I had an intuition that they would be found guilty on all accounts. So let's play it back for those who are at work and traveling along the way, who couldn't slide out. Here it is.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and address each one of these verdict forms separately. The first verdict form I have is the state of Georgia versus Travis McMichael. Mr. McMichael, please stand. Verdict is as follows. In the Superior Court of Glenn County, state of Georgia, the state of Georgia versus Travis McMichael, case number CR 000433. Jury verdict form. Count 1, malice murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. I'm going to ask that whoever just made an outburst be removed from the court, please. As this court has indicated, I ask that there be no outbursts in the court, and I expect as much from the gallery. Please respect the court's desire for this as we move forward. If you feel like you need to make a comment or otherwise demonstrate with respect to the verdict, I do ask that you step out of the courtroom now. Count 2, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 3, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 4, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 5, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 6, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 7, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 8, false imprisonment. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 9, criminal attempt to commit a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Dated this 24th day of November, 2021, signed by the foreperson. Have a seat. As to Gregory McMichael, in the Superior Court of Glenn County, the state of Georgia versus Greg McMichael, case number CR 2000433. Jury verdict form. Count 1, malice murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, not guilty. Count 2, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 3, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 4, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 5, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 6, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 7, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 8, false imprisonment. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 9, criminal attempt to commit a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. This 24th day of November, 2021, signed by the foreperson. As to William R. Bryan. In the Superior Court of Glenn County, State of Georgia versus William R. Bryan, case number CR 2000433, jury verdict form. Count 1, malice murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, not guilty. Count 2, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, not guilty. Count 3, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, guilty. Count 4, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, guilty. Count 5, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, guilty. Count 6, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, not guilty. Count 7, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, guilty. Count 8, false imprisonment. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, guilty. Count 9, criminal attempt to commit a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, guilty. Signed this 24th day of November by the foreperson.
All right, and there it was for many who may have missed it. I wanted it to play through and not say anything. And yes, I agree with the chat. I concur. The lead prosecutor, when she walked in there in her closing yesterday, and she had in her rebuttal to what the defense team was saying, I knew it was a wrap. She agilely broke that down when she started going through those charges. She was like, bing, 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 boop, 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 boop. And yes, Letha, and Yvonne, Evo May, and Miss G, I see you. Carolyn, I see you. Amp, what's up? Bushes, how y'all doing? Very emotional moment for many of us. Emotional moment all the way around for the family members of the murderers and the one who took his life, as well as Ahmaud Arbery, as well as many who are rich and melanated. Because so often we see times like this and murderers get away. And this was a modern day lynching. It was worse than a modern day lynching. It was like being tied to a truck and drugged down a road. So to the attorney who hair looks like a shaggy poodle, who was talking about Ahmaud being dirty and dirty feet and all that other stuff. You shouldn't have been saying anything about his appearance at all. Because you look like an inflated, shaggy-haired poodle. Okay, so let's move on. Now, yeah, it is unprofessional. Extremely unprofessional. However, it just shows you the mindset that some people have. Now, on my community wall, I was showing people talking about the Jacob Brooks incident and Kyle being free. See, people don't want to stand on the truth and the facts. I don't care about anybody else's truth because their truth may not be the truth. When people say, oh, I want to speak my truth, and in comment sections, people say, and they want to tell their truth. And you look at my community wall when I'm responding to people from other news sites and they want to jump in and say something, and I want to correct the record and let the record show, and then you get 50 other million people talking back and forth. I don't care nothing about your truth. I care about the truth and the absolute truth and nothing but the truth. And the truth and the fact of the matter is they murdered him just like Kyle Rittenhouse murdered those other men. Let the record show. At the end of the day, it was their hands pulling the trigger and conspired. At the end of the day, it was them running down on him, hitting him with the vehicles. And yes, a Robbie vehicle, he hit Ahmaud too. Not just the McMichaels. See, it was them pursuing him getting away from them, and them intentionally pursuing him. And people, to the people who watching in the bushes who are not subscribed to this channel, let me be very clear. When I call the property a construction site, the owner of the property is a contractor. He called it a construction site. Let the record show. This won't bring Ahmaud Arbery back, but they are being held accountable for their actions and responsible. They decided to roll up on him with that foolishness, chase him down, shoot him when he was fighting for his life. They get what they get. Now, I think it's also important to know that they can appeal, and their sentencing, the hearing for their sentences have not been held yet. So when we look at the judicial system, we got to put it in perspective. However, I just knew it was a wrap when the prosecutor, when she came back in the rebuttals against the defense team closing arguments. She wrapped them up. She wrapped it up. Hey, Fire Mama, how you doing? Hey, Cha Cha. Right, Miss G. I don't think it was the first time of them doing things to this nature either. Right. And their actions were extremely disgusting. Oh, Yvonne, you were still scared. You thought it was a wrap too, but it was that. Yvonne May, let me say your name the correct way. Yvonne May. I understand the apprehension because, like I said, so often we do see times when it comes back not guilty. And we're looking like, what? We've seen innocent people go to jail, and we've seen guilty people run wild and free. So I was praying. I don't know about nobody else. The one that I rock with, I said, let me get before the Father. let me go into my prayer chambers. I sure did. And prayed one of them prayers like, Lord, you see everything. To the one that I acknowledge as my Lord, you see everything. There's nothing that you miss when you got to go in and pray one of them prayers. Then you get caught up into the third heavens and you come out and you know everything is all right. Woo! You know how you get in there for those people who believe in praying, you get in there and you get to praying saying, you see everything, the things that people don't see, you see the things that people don't know, you know. Woo! That's right. Sure was. I don't know about nobody else. I know I was praying. So like I said, it's an emotional moment for many mothers. Um, whether you are Black in America, Caucasian in America, Asian in America, Hispanic in America, no matter what ethnic group you are part of, is very emotional. Um, not just for mothers, but for brothers, for fathers as well, to see the way he was murdered. And many of us were out there running, saying, I run with Ahmaud Arbery, and to see it come full circle, to have this in the hands of jurors, knowing it could have went either way. Um, it's an emotional moment. It is, because of the history of the United States of America, because of the judicial system in the United States of America. Just an emotional moment. Let's talk about the four men from the 1949 who were just exonerated they sat in prison for some things they never did, for rape of a woman they never even touched. Let's talk about Kirkland, Mr. Kirkland. He got released out of prison yesterday. He's been in prison for over 40 years for something that he never did. He's out of prison. The way the judicial system over here in the United States works, where you can get a set of jurors to find somebody guilty and they're innocent and their DNA was not at the scene. I mean, they were not even there. So it's a very emotional moment. Very. But I knew it was a wrap right here. Here we go. Let's do a flashback. Can we flash back real quick? I knew it was a wrap when she started walking down the street. I knew it was a wrap.
He told you he's not going to chase or investigate someone who is armed. And yet all he talked about was, well, he kept reaching in his pants, he kept reaching in his pocket. Well, did you think he was armed or not? Then what did he
This
tell
was part of her rebuttal.
This is what I was thinking. Mr. Arbery may have run by. Maybe Matt had seen him. Maybe he has broken in. Maybe Larry English is over at 220. I don't know. Maybe Ahmaud Arbery was caught. Maybe Ahmaud Arbery is running from the police. These are all maybes. He doesn't know anything. These are all the maybes he testified to. He said he assumed he was committing a crime. That's what he said on the stand. Remember, I wrote it out. You said you assumed he was committing a crime. I went down there to see if it was him. Then he said, I don't know. I don't know what he did that day. I don't know. Then he wanted to talk about his totality of the circumstances and all that stuff that he knew that was going to allow him to do the citizen's arrest. What did he talk about? Well, I heard from my mom about the stuff stolen off the boat. Okay, well, can't arrest somebody on the unsupported gossip of someone else. Can't do that. And then, I saw him inside the house, and I knew he was in there on a couple other days because I'd seen video on February, on February 11th, he saw these videos. Okay, well that's not having committed a crime in his immediate presence. This is somebody showing you some stuff later. And then he knew about the white couple. Oh yeah, I knew there were other suspects for stealing the stuff and other suspects who had gone in the house, the white couple. Okay? And then he also said, well yeah, and then there was the shady looking guy under the bridge. He was also kind of a suspect. He said, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. What happened down the road? I was ordering him to stop. What gives you the right to order Ahmaud Arbery to stop? My impression was that he could be a threat. Because who knows what can happen? Oh my God. Self-defense, you have to think you're in imminent danger of receiving serious bodily harm or death. It's imminently happening, I'm about to die. My impression was that he could be a threat. Yeah, who knows what could happen? This place I don't stand.
I'm gonna answer your question in a minute, Yvonne May. I see it.
All right, so what else have we got? If Greg had called 911, he's still on the phone with 911. We know that. That's how 911 works. They stay on the phone with you. He knew he wasn't on the phone with 911. He told you he did know what his father was saying to Ahmaud. Really? Does anybody believe that? That he's in the car with his dad, but he has no idea what it was that his father was actually saying to Ahmaud, as well as what he was saying? Now, what did he talk about? He talked about that continuum of the use of force and blah, blah, blah. Level 2 is commands. Okay. I'm sorry. How do police officers command people to do stuff? How do they usually do that? Because police officers, are they yelling at you? Or are they politely saying stuff to you when they're commanding you to do things? Do you believe for a minute he was talking softly to Ahmaud Arbery? What's going on? What are you doing? Please stop for me. Do you really believe that for 1 minute? I'm going to ask you another question. Do you think this Travis McMichael who took the stand was the same Travis McMichael from February 23rd? You think they're the same person?
Trial preparation is scared he gonna spend his life in prison.
What tone of voice do we have being used by the McMichaels?
Hello.
Graphic
911,
disclaimer.
what's your emergency?
I'm not here. It's Satilla Shores. There's a black male running down the street.
Where at Satilla Shores?
I don't know what street we're on. Stop right there! Is it? Stop! Travis!
Sir, hello?
Ask yourself, was that the tone of voice being used? Well, yes, we know it was. He just said, stop. God damn it, stop, to Mr. Arbery, in that tone of voice. All right, use of force continuum. Presence. Did not have no badge, no uniform.
Didn't have nothing.
Just some strange guys in a white pickup
No
truck.
authority.
Strangers. Verbal commands. They don't have any authority to use verbal commands. This is a fellow citizen. This is another human being. They're pulling up on him, and they're commanding that he come and talk to them.
And so that's the way I feel about that, Yvonne.
And then, of course,
running around with no authority. They ain't been ordained to be over nobody, but they kids. If they got, well, one got kids, but who are they? You ain't got no authority. What I feel about that is, people need to stop walking around here in some fake authority. Okay? They want to do all this stuff, but then when it's time to be held accountable and to answer to what they've done, because sowing and reaping, it will grow up. The fruits and the things that you sow will grow up. They will spring up. Then when it's time to be held accountable for the actions that they've done, then it's like we was well within our rights. We had a right to. Who told them that? America told them that. Who are they? Yes. Now the prosecutor flipped it back on them because they wanted to use constitutional rights, and when she did that rebuttal, she made it clear. Excuse me, Ahmaud Arbery had as much right as any other human to live and to walk down any street he wanted to. He'd be free in America. He was free man. He was a free man. That's what I feel about that 911 call. You get them, like I said, it's an emotional moment. It is emotional. The tears that I was going to cry, I cried when they released that call and he was being shot. Right, little boy, cha, little boy, and he a grown man. Sitting up there calling him a little boy, he in his 30s, sitting right next to his father in the church, talking about he know what his daddy said. Did he have headphones in, ear pods in? No. He heard exactly what his daddy said. Anyway, they've been found guilty. We'll see what they get sentenced to because they still have to have a sentence hearing. They do have a right to appeal. We'll see how that work out. Should they choose to appeal. I've had enough of seeing the goofy attorneys come up there and defend them. Everybody has a right to a trial and a hearing, and everybody can get a defense. But these defense attorneys have been downright racist, and I'm gonna call it what it is. Racist. Straight up, flat out, in your face, racist. And like I said, to the attorney with the who talked about the female attorney who gonna bring up about how dirty your mind was looking and his nails was dirty and this and that, excuse me. And she been in court every day looking like a shaggy haired poodle. An inflated shaggy haired poodle. And she had the audacity to talk about somebody. Let me make this plain. She's been in court every day, Monday through Friday, looking like an inflated, shaggy haired, wrinkled poodle. But she want to talk about Ahmaud, the deceased, during her closing. Talk about unprofessional. No, let's call it what it is, racist. That's right. I said she looked like a shaggy haired, inflated, wrinkled poodle. Nah, that's right. She wanted to use some words and be descriptive. Well, let's use some words and be descriptive. Yeah. I can be extremely descriptive too. Now I would have caught that one outside that court and told her about herself. I sure would have, right to her face, eye to eye. I sure would have. You know what, Carolyn, they can appeal all they want to. They have a right to an appeal. Fine, but let's see how that work out. They can appeal. Let's see how that work out. Let's see how that work out. And I think what they need to realize is, how would they feel if somebody rolled down on them with the shotgun, ran them all around for 5 minutes, and then rolled up on them and shot them the way that they did him? See, the golden rule is, I would that you would do unto others as you would have them do to you. If you don't want it done to you, don't do it to nobody else, period. And if people would just acknowledge that and utilize that, a lot of things just wouldn't go on. But no, you get these people so heady and high-minded until they think that they can do whatever they want to do. And many have gotten away. But again, like I said in my prayers, when I was praying, my prayer was this: to the one who I believe and acknowledge as my God, is that you see everything, you know everything, you hear everything. There is nothing that you do not see and don't know. You are omnipresent, everywhere present at the same time. You saw this, you see the hearts and the minds of men and women. You know, some people pray the way they pray if they pray. My prayers be a little bit different. So, you know, after I got finished praying, I had a feeling everything was going to be all right. Mhm. And so, um, it's like I said, it's an emotional time. It's an emotional time. Um, we were given our human emotions for a reason. Um, it doesn't bring him back, but at least those who took his life will be held accountable. And that's the part we want to get to: accountability. And while we right here, shout out to the Black militias and the protesters of all ethnic groups who have been out there resilient as it pertains to Ahmaud Arbery. Shout out. That's the NFAC, New Black Panther Party, all of them who ran up on that street and said, somebody better come get them up out these houses and hold them accountable for somebody, as well as, like I said, protesters from all ethnic groups. Shout out for doing the work. The activists and the advocates and the attorneys and the pastors who were praying, and everybody who were presenting any labor of love pertaining to Ahmaud Arbery, to people who raised an awareness campaign about this situation, because it all matters. And that's one thing that we need to start realizing as citizens in the United States. Every labor and every work and every effort that we put in towards justice matters. It matters. Don't ever let anybody tell you when you're working for a righteous and a right cause that your labor is in vain. And it don't always happen overnight. Justice is not a one-night stand. When you're trying to work towards any form of justice, it is not a one-night stand. It is a long-lasting, long-term commitment. It's a until death do us part type of commitment. And that's the way it has to be. You have to be resilient. You can regroup and come back. And get back up in the fight. So, hey, Alan. You did, Cha-Cha. Several posts were saying guilty. So this is, like I said, let's remember, justice is not a one-night stand. It's a long-term commitment. It's a until death do us part type of commitment when we are working towards justice for anybody, but we don't recant. We can regroup. We can't. We don't give up. We don't let anybody talk us down. We don't let anybody move us. We don't let anybody shake us. We plant our feet like a rock. And we don't be moved. And we go out, pursue, and we recover all. That's the way this goes. Now, um, I'm still waiting on that video footage from Christina. It's so many cases. It's so much going on in the land. There's always a lot of stuff going on. And sometimes we have to settle ourselves, go to our quiet place, clear our minds, and get back up once we're refreshed and jump back in the fight. Got it. And jump back into this fight. So again, the McMichaels were found guilty. Robbie was found guilty. Guilty. So let's go.
County. That prosecutor is not from Glenn County, so she also is an outsider. So I have to applaud the prosecution in their ability to be able to select a jury that can hear this case, that can be fair and impartial, and also be able to decide that once she proves her case beyond a reasonable doubt, they can come back with a guilty verdict. So I think what helped here is the extensive voir dire that took place. Remember that these jurors, once they were questioned in a pool, they were also questioned individually and at length. Remember, it took over 10 days to get a qualified jury pool. So yes, the jury was 11 Caucasians and one male, and one African-American male. But what we can say is that those 12 jurors were fair jurors, and that despite of their racial makeup, they were able to see what happened on February 23rd, 2020 was wrong, no matter what race you are. And they were able to hold these defendants accountable because it wasn't about race. It was about a wrong that was committed against another human being without just cause.
When you heard today, Bernardo, when we said there was going to be a verdict and the judge brought the court back in to read that today, for a moment, did you stop and pause and think, I wonder what the verdict is going to be? Did you think that a nearly all-white jury could reach this guilty verdict? Because I remember we were all sitting here on set a matter of weeks ago when they selected this jury, and a lot of eyebrows were raised when there were so many white folks on it. What were you thinking this afternoon?
Absolutely, Allison. Remember, I was on air with you when this 12-member jury was actually selected. And we were like, how is it that 11 out of 12 African-American qualified jury members were able to be struck off? So in terms of when the verdict came down, girl, I became nervous, like if I were the one that were on trial or I were the prosecutor on trial. Like, because there are no guarantees when you take a case to trial and you have 12 human beings that have to come together and you hope that they can see the case from your eyes. So yes, I was nervous, not just because of it's unpredictable, but also because of the history of this country when you're dealing with a Caucasian killing an African-American male. And that's just the truth about it. History has given me this fear.
So Bernardo, let's talk then about the video factor here, because a lot of people are saying, great, this is terrific. Justice was served here. This sends the message that you cannot kill a man going for a run in a neighborhood for no reason. But does this also send the message that you can't kill a man for running in a neighborhood for no reason if there's video of it?
Look, the reality is that regardless whether there's video or not, there's no video. You can't kill a man that's coming into your neighborhood who's not committing any wrong. Because my thing is, I pay taxes. I pay federal and state taxes. So you know what that allows me to do? To go into any neighborhood in my state, because my taxes is helping to pay for that neighborhood. So what helped here, of course, is that there was video, because Allison, let's be honest and let's be real. Had there not been video, that phone camera video, there wouldn't have been an arrest in this case. Because even with the cell phone video, remember, it took four prosecutors' offices to be able to finally get to an arrest of the McMichaels as well as William Bryan. So that tells you that we need more still, even though we're in 2021, when we're talking about a case like this, especially when you're dealing with self-defense. Because without video, all you have is a he say, she say. And just remember, I was a homicide prosecutor, and the most difficult cases were those self-defense cases where you didn't have video, because you'll have the defendant get on the stand and testify how they were in imminent fear for their life. And what happens? The dead person is dead. They can't talk for themselves. They can't say what really happened. So thank God there was video in this case, but it still doesn't give William Bryan a pass because he was able to produce the video.
Let me ask you about the defendants here and how they defended themselves. I mean, Travis McMichael on the stand.
I don't care nothing about how they defended themselves. However, shout out to her, AKA, she's an attorney. So, like I said, emotions are high here, and they're hitting some key points. Key point being, in the United States of America, because historically, and I'm always going to talk about historically because we got a record over here. You can't rewrite history. United States got a record that has not been nice to African American people, period. I don't care how you slice that and dice that. It is what it is. That's the reality of the situation. So let's deal. Not only that, historically, we know how it pans out over here because of United States racist history. And then the jury selection, even the judge mentioned the jury selection. He said, we got all Caucasians and only one black person. The judge said something about that his own self. He said, I don't like this. He said, but because of Georgia law, there's nothing I can do about it. But at the end of the day, when the prosecutors came in and she flipped the script on them, how about this? How about, and if you caught it, she kept saying it throughout, how about if this was you? He had a right. He had a right to life. Who were they? Who were they to take away somebody else's life? Who were they to run him down? And for me, when the one detective showed the image that had never been seen before of Ahmaud laying in the street with a bloody shirt, with his shirt full of blood, I knew it was a wrap because news anchors came out and said the jurors were astonished. They were shook. They were shook when they saw those images. They were like almost in disbelief. And for right there, that painted a picture on the canvas of their imaginations that I guarantee you they will not forget. It was a wrap right then. That picture that got painted on the canvas of their imaginations when they saw him lying dead in that street full of blood and his shirt was full of blood. I said, that's it. That's it. I said, they got to him. And that was the second day. I said, they got him. I said, that's got to him. I said, that's it. They wrapped up. Their minds was decided right then. I knew their minds made up right then. I said, all right, that image. We could talk about the video, but it was when they said the jurors saw that image and reporters were reporting that the jurors were like in disbelief after seeing that image of him laying in that street in all that blood. I said, that's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. I said, that's it. That's on their mind. That's it. Their mind's made up. I don't care how long they deliberate. It was a wrap. To me, for me, the second day, it was a wrap. It was a wrap. Pictures worth 1,000 words. News anchors came back and was like, they saw that image and they were, you knew, and I said, oh, this is a wrap. This is basically a wrap for me in my mind, in my perspective. To get that type of reaction from jurors, you know, Reporters were allowed to see that type of reactions from the jurors behind one image, behind that one image. Remember, pictures are worth 1,000 words. Okay, that image painted a picture on the canvas of their imaginations that's etched in their memory forever. I say it's a wrap. They're going to remember that image. Yeah, it was overkill, Alan. Right, Cha-Cha, like an animal. Yeah, yeah. So again, they've been found guilty. Robbie, I said all three have been found guilty on all accounts. However, but let me make the correction. Robbie didn't get found guilty on all his accounts, but most of those accounts, the main ones he was found guilty on. So he gonna do some prison time too. So let's remember sentencing hearing still has to take place. And they still have a right to an appeal. So this is the United States of America. But I want to go while we're looking at highlights, I want to go back to something that a former prosecutor, federal prosecutor in the United States of America said. I want to go back to. Okay, so let me go back. All right, so I think that's right here. Okay.
He should be celebrating the holidays with his mother. Let us not forget that tomorrow is Thanksgiving Day, and the president there, of course, pointing out that he will not be here to celebrate that holiday with his family, but reminding us that this verdict ensures that those who committed this horrible crime will be punished. And I think that really gets to the heart of it, why people are both celebrating and also still have heavy hearts today, because Ahmaud Arbery is not here. Sam Brock, thanks for all of your terrific coverage for us this afternoon. I'm sure we'll be chatting with you a little bit later. Thank you.
I suspect we will. Thank you, Allison.
All right, for more on this, let's bring our legal panel. We have Glenn Kirshner, former federal prosecutor and NBC News legal analyst, and Bernardo Villalona, former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney. Great to have you both with us this hour. Glenn, I'm going to start with you. The jury deliberated for a day and some hours today. This was day 2. They announced their verdict early this afternoon. Your take on the timing here and what we heard from this jury today?
Allison, the timing shows this was a thoughtful jury, but, this was a jury that was determined to hold these 3 men accountable for all of the crimes they committed, but none of the crimes the jury believed were not proved by the evidence. But the fact that it was a quick, definitive verdict, I think speaks volumes about how they were convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that all 3 of these men were guilty of some form of murder. Now, we know Travis McMichael was the gunman, and they convicted him of all counts, including malice murder, which is malice is a fancy word to say you have hate in your heart when you intentionally killed Mr. Arbery. And then Gregory McMichael and William Bryan were convicted on a theory of felony murder, which means they were participating in a felony, and during the course of that felony, a homicide occurred, a murder occurred. So the jury very thoughtfully found them not guilty of the malice murder count, but guilty of felony murder and all of the other counts. What that means, Allison, is all of these men are now facing life in prison. And let's remember, they have a federal hate crime civil rights trial coming up in February.
So, Glenn, let me ask you about this process ahead. Right. We've been talking a lot about the verdict today, but I think a lot of people want to know, okay, when is that potential sentencing? How long could this go on? What will happen with appeals? How about that civil rights trial? Is there any sense of how long this could take before we have some of those answers?
Okay.
Yeah, so I haven't seen the court set a sentencing date yet. But as I say, these men will be facing up to life in prison. They're very likely to get what I would call de facto life sentences, given their age and given how much time in prison they're facing. You then have the federal trial coming up. And, some people will say, well, you can only confine a man for but one life. So what's the point in trying them in a federal court of law? The different jurisdictions, state and federal, are designed to vindicate very different rights. So
They get ready to
this
hit
was a
his
murder case in
civil
Georgia.
rights.
The federal case is a
He
civil
had a
rights
right to
case
life.
because Mr. Arbery also had a right to be, doing whatever he was doing, running, walking through that neighborhood without having his civil rights violated, without having hate crimes perpetrated against him. So there are different rights being vindicated by the different jurisdictions. The one other thing I'll say, Allison, is, the federal case, when it goes forward, and if there are convictions, that will serve as insurance against a successful appeal in the state courts in the event there is a successful appeal of today's conviction, which I predict there will not be because the evidence was strong. It was an extremely well-tried case by both the prosecution, and it was presided over well by the judge.
So, Bernardo, I want to ask you about the defense because Glenn's been saying it, and it really seems like all of our legal experts
we heard what the AKA had to say. I brought her in. I forgot about the federal trial that was going to take place. Oh my. Yeah. They're going to get him on his civil rights charges, a right to life for infringing upon his constitutional rights. And then, they're going to work it down to the 16th Amendment, a right to be treated equally and fairly and justly under the law. Yeah, they're getting ready to wrap them up. Yeah. It's a wrap. I will be watching the civil rights hearing too, but oh my, I forgot about that trial. Looking like, oh yeah. The state of Georgia is getting ready to be sued, by the way. The county of Brunswick is getting ready to be sued, whatever county that's in. Y'all getting ready to get sued. That's what goes down in those civil rights trials. Somebody gonna get sued. County, city, states, y'all getting ready to get sued for his death. That's right. Y'all gonna have to run that money. It won't bring his life back. Pain, suffering, and distress on behalf of the family. They can ready to go to prison for a long time, and they old. The one is in his the one son is in his 30s. He's still, fairly young, but the other two, they a little older. And Alan, you were saying you didn't think they was gonna last in prison. They going straight to the hole. They probably going straight to the hole. Yeah. Yeah. All that fighting they was doing while they was out, now they're gonna have to fight. Unfortunately, prisons over here in the United States of America are completely inhumane. The worst place you could ever be, from my perspective. They're gonna have to learn how to fight for real now. So they might as well get ready. Because them prisoners gonna want to see what them hands can do. Because in there, you ain't had no gun. You're gonna have to see what them hands can do now. Yeah, cha-cha, that's where they're gonna gut them at in the civil rights. Right, Cha-Cha. And that's another thing. Right, Alan. Let me say this, comment on this, Alan, right? The audacity of them to think that they would get away because, like Miss Carolyn mentioned earlier, you can kind of tell they've done some things before and maybe have gotten away with it. This was not just out of a blue. Things rolled off their tongue too readily. You think that the father should get a super heavy sentence, Cha-Cha? Well, right, Cha-Cha. If the former DA had her, and remember, she still has her trial. If she had her way, this would have never been heard. It would have been swept under the rug. She was sitting on evidence. She was suppressing evidence. So they're going to give her for a host of things. And I think she needs to come in for that civil rights trial. I hope they bring her in too as one of the defendants because she also was denying somebody a right to a fair and speedy trial or a fair trial. She was also denying Ahmaud of his civil rights. See, anytime you try to suppress evidence or do things in that manner to where people can't go to court, you're violating their constitutional rights. You're infringing upon their constitutional rights. We have a right to a trial here. We have a right to be heard before a judge. We have a right to a hearing, and we have a right for jurors, a peer of our jurors to decide. So, just denying him his right to life, his right to be treated equally and fairly under the law. So yeah. Denying him his freedom of speech by her suppressing that, I would go in and argue she denied him his First Amendment right, a right to his free speech by suppressing such evidence that would allow, although he's not physically here, the evidence to speak on his behalf pertaining to the things that occurred the day his life was viciously taken by the hand of others. I would be working that one in there, some type of how, some type of way. I know I would be working that in there. I would make everything relevant to something. And it's interesting that the prosecutor, and I had to think about that, the prosecutor who prosecuted the case is not from that county. Remember, they had to find somebody because you had too many hands that weren't clean. You had dirty hands and sticky fingers. So oh, and that's true, Cha-Cha. I do believe she's done that before. Yes, Paige, they were found guilty. The McMichaels were found guilty on all accounts. Robbie was found guilty on what, at least 4 accounts. He going to prison anyway. Alan, you said turkey and dressing would taste better tomorrow. Yeah, Cha-Cha. God bless the system. No, I'm not gonna say God bless the system because the system don't always work all the time. If the system was working, Mr. Kirkland wouldn't have been in prison for over 40 years. If the system was working, those men that have been just exonerated, the 4 that was accused of rape, never would have been in there. So I ain't gonna say God bless the system. This system needs an overhaul. It needs a redo. from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top, all the way around, period. I can't can't put no blessing on the system over here in the United States of America. Never that. Because it don't always work right. However, these jurors saw and heard and didn't deflect on the color of his skin. And I think like they did with the other jurors in Kyle's place, when they kept saying his constitutional right to defend himself. He was defending himself. He was defending himself. And the men came in there, oh, see him as a kid. So first of all, they don't be seeing other ethnic groups as no kid when they be getting tried for murder. That's number one. Number two, they did start, I think those jurors started viewing their constitutional rights and, da 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 and all this and that. The same thing that these jurors did here. What if that was them? I think they started putting themselves in his place, in Ahmaud's place. What if that was him? Or putting himself in his mom's and his father's place? What if that were them? So what if that were you running down the street, minding your own business? Fleeing away from some people you don't know, and they continue to pursue you. I think the jurors started seeing it like that. And on the second day, like I said, when they saw an image that had never been seen before, and reporters came out and said that they were shaking behind that image, it was a wrap. It was a wrap. They got to see it. When they started seeing all those images of him laying in the street, laying in pools of blood, and the blood being everywhere, that was a wrap. I think for them, that was a wrap. I think after they saw that image and just the visibly being shaken, according to news anchors, that they were visibly shaken by the images they were seeing, that was a wrap. You didn't see them. You didn't see him innocent for 1 minute. No. Liberty does need a new bail, Alan. We do. We need an overhaul over here in the United States of America. We can start by something we discussed in the other live that I did with Evo May and Miss Letha, and that is human rights versus civil rights. Because if you get to human rights, which is something that Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and the old freedom fighters and the old civil rights fighters fought for and championed, then you would start viewing people as human and every human as equal, versus we still got civil rights because America deemed a group of people 1/3 human. My ethnic group deemed us 1/3 human. When you get to human rights, saying that everybody's a human, then you'll know you're on the right path. And when you get to courts and there are hearings taking place, instead of looking at the person at the color of their skin, you'll look at them human. You'll see human instead of skin color. When we get there, then we will have it right. Malcolm X said it. Human rights. Martin Luther King said it. Human rights. Fannie Lee Hamer. Human rights. When we get there, we'll get it right. We're not there yet. When we get there, then we'll start getting it right in America. Every human has a right to all of the so-called liberties in the United States of America. Then we'll get it right. Yeah, we got to get it right, Paige. We got to get to human rights. As long as we stay focused on other things that the freedom fighters of old did lay a stepping stone for many of us to capitalize off of and benefit off of, which I could never take that away from them ever. No one could ever take the labor of love and the work that the old generation did and the foundation they laid for us to be where we are today. Period. People can talk about they should have fought for human rights. They were fighting for human rights, but before they could get to human rights over here in the United States of America, they had to go ahead and negotiate for civil rights. They had to negotiate and fight for civil rights. When we get human rights over here, we'll start getting it right. Then we'll get it right. We'll start getting it right. When you look at a person and you see human, then we'll get it right. But as long as you still have words like slave in the Constitution, you got it wrong. So, with that being said, it's another trial that the three have to attend, and that's going to be civil rights trial. And that's a federal trial, not a state. That's a federal trial. So when we get there, they're going to wrap them up. They're going to get charged with hate crimes. They getting ready to wrap them up. So they also gonna get charged with violating another person's constitutional rights. So the federal prosecutor, the former federal prosecutor, Allen had, not Allen, but Mr. Kushner had spoke about that. And he said that's where basically saying that's where the heavy sentencing is going to come in. Sentencing at the state, yep, could be sentenced heavily there. But when you get to the federal court, yeah, and they start going through every constitutional right that was infringed upon and violated due to the death of the Ahmaud Arbery, that's where they're going to wrap them up at on them sentences. They're going to wrap them up. And he would know because he was a federal prosecutor. So all right. A form of justice have been served because they've been held accountable. And they had to be held responsible for their actions that they committed. And say a form of justice because it won't bring them back. So the flip side of justice is holding the people accountable that committed the acts. So that's just the form of justice. Now, let's see if people will start course correcting the error of their ways. With that being said, oh, Paige, you said you deserve what they got coming and people turn against you. Well, what they had coming was accountability for their actions, not being given a pass. He was minding his own doggone business. They didn't have a right to run him down and chase him down with their vehicles and shoot him. They didn't have a right to say anything to them. He wasn't saying anything to them. It was never their property. Period. And they don't own the street. So, you know, like I said, them getting what they got is being held accountable for their actions. That's them getting what they got, and jurors holding them accountable for their actions, because this wasn't an accident. The moment they began pursuing him, you can throw accidental out the window. And both of them hit him with their vehicles. You can throw accidental out the window. They ran him into a ditch, both of them. You can throw accidental out the window. So justice is them being held accountable for what they did and getting ready to pay for it. That's just the form. Like I said, it won't bring them back. Now, until then, you all enjoy your holidays. I enjoyed chatting with everybody in the chat. Like I said, it is emotional. It's an emotional moment coming from last week's trial to this trial and all of the trials that's been taking place, because it's not just been these ones. It's been the one in Florida with the lady, and how could I forget her name? She's been going through trial, and then it's another trial going on with the African-American police officer from almost 9 years ago. They're trying to say he murdered this older Caucasian lady in her home, but the DNA is unconclusive, and you don't know if it doesn't really put him there. And so you got that one going on. And then, like I said, it's the lady in Florida. You have that one going on. It's so many different ones going on till, and there's so much going on till, and you have people being freed, and then you have the officer who murdered the African-American guy in 2019 and waived his rights to a jury trial. And the judge decided that he's going to spend some time in prison, that he going to prison. Since he wanted the judge to decide, the judge decided that police officer is going to prison. That's what the judge decided for him. You don't want to have a juror? All right. You going to leave it up to me? Okay. And the judge decided prison time. Former officer got to go to prison for killing the other African-American man. Judge decided prison. So he's going to be held accountable for that. It's just so much going on. It's always usually a reason to be super emotional here in the United States of America. It is always a reason for emotions to run high. Okay. However, we have to get our self-control, because if we don't get our self-control, we may find ourselves doing some things that we don't really want to do. If we continuously meditate and ponder it over. So certain things, it will it can take you to a state of rage. Let me put it that way. It can take you to a state of rage. It really can. So like I said, there's always a lot going on. We just have to continue to keep our souls under control, and stay vigilant and stay in the fight. With that being said, everybody enjoy your holidays if you celebrate it, even if you don't. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and it is pleasant chatting with you all as usual. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. All right, so you all have a pleasant evening and a pleasant night. Bye-bye, everybody. Stay safe. Nice chat.